hey there! How are you guys doing in the heat?
Oh, Mion-san, we're doing good. Is that our refreshment? Thanks, a bunch. You're such a great manager.
I just felt like coming here. I didn't bring this for you, by the way. And don't treat me as your manager without my permission, please.
We'd be a stronger team if you were our manager, Mion. Hey, why don't you apply? As a manager, I mean.
Satoshi-kun smiled at me in a carefree manner. I didn't want to become their manager. It'd be tiresome. I've been coming every week, though, so I'm a quasi-manager already. Well, if I feel like it. Anyway, how's Satoshi-kun doing, coach? Is his batting average improving?
Yes, he's doing fine. His batting average is, well, if you buy 3 packs of rice crackers at 7's Mart.
Does that mean it's 30%? Wow, you're doing great, Satoshi-kun.
It's not just about the number, Mion. I have to be able to hit the ball when it really counts. It's good that you're aware of your weakness, Satoshi-kun. You just continue to work on them for now.
Irie signaled out to the pitcher, who then threw the ball. Satoshi-kun looked calm, following the ball with his eyes, then he swung. Thwack! The ball flew between the first and second bases and landed in the distance. Wow, that's great! Good job, Satoshi-kun! I clapped and Satoshi-kun blushed in response. He repositioned his helmet to hide his face. Well, he's good in practice, and when the game is slow. Irie smiled compassionately. It seemed that Satoshi-kun really couldn't perform well when it counted. While he was usually good, when everybody expected him to perform, he couldn't. I didn't think it was because of nervousness, he just couldn't do it. I think it's a perfect fit for Satoshi-kun's character. He seems calm at first glance, but he's actually slow. Numerically speaking, you're a great player, but you need to be able to hit the ball even when things get serious. That's why you were an easy out in the match with the Yukita Jaguars the other day.
Shut up. I know that.
If he'd been able to hit the ball then, he would have been a hero. What a shame. A hit could have put the offense into the lead, or at least given them an extension. That was when Satoshi-kun came up to bat. Irie wanted him to live up to everybody's expectations, but statistically, that wasn't likely to happen. Yet, Irie insisted on giving him a chance in spite of the fact that all the team members had suggested a pinch hitter. Ah! It would have been perfect if you could have hit it. Why didn't you? Why can't you hit the ball in a situation when it really matters?
There was nothing I could do. I know I'm weak in a situation like that. I thought a pinch hitter was a better idea too.
It's not about the match, it's about you, Satoshi-kun. Ah! You need to be more aggressive. Shouldn't you have thought the opposite way? Shouldn't you have insisted that you come up to bat no matter what everybody said? I can't believe you wanted to give away the chance to some pinch hitter. Why are you so weak like that?
That's what I'm always telling him. I know that's one of his good points, too, but,
You can be a gentleman at other times, but when playing games, you should be a demon. I think all men should have those two sides to them. You need to let your demon out, Satoshi-kun. You're native to Hamanazawa, so never forget that you have the demon's blood running through your veins. Are you listening? Satoshi-kun!
I am. I'm not sure, but...
What are you not sure about? We're talking about you! So, whoa! Ah! Satoshi-kun suddenly started stroking my head. He looked delighted for some reason. A blush immediately spread across my face. I didn't know how to respond.
You're already giving me advice, right? Thanks. I'll do my best.
Hey! Don't you try to fool me.
I'm not. I'm just happy that you care about me.
I couldn't resist his hand. I couldn't help mumbling like he does. Satoshi-kun ran back to the field, leaving me as red as a beet.
Do you feel good when you have your head stroked?
Depends. If it were you, I'd have to teach you a new martial arts technique.
Ha! What a shame. Alright, everyone, gather round. Why don't you split into groups and have a practice match?
The Hamanazawa fighters are sort of a lazy team. The members gather simply to enjoy playing baseball, not to fight for victory. The Okonomiya Titans use this field too, but they practice on a different day of the week. They always train hard using dumbbells and stuff. Our team split into two groups and started a match, retaining their loose atmosphere. I'll keep track of the score. Coach, do you have a pencil?
Thanks for helping out. Here.
I took the pencil and the clipboard. I didn't know how to differentiate between recording hits and errors at first, but by now I was used to it. Show me what you got, Satoshi-kun. Oh, maybe it'll be too much pressure if I cheer for you too excessively. Just do okay then.
That doesn't sound very encouraging either.
Do your best! Time passed slowly that Sunday. Huge white clouds appeared in the sky. They made me feel healthy. Humans are born to be active under the sun. One of the parents was acting as umpire today, so Irie sat on the bench with me. He shouted words of encouragement to the kids while they ran to their positions. Any other baseball coach would consistently berate them, but he was much more generous, like a kindergarten teacher. He let the kids have fun while watching over them. To other baseball players, it might look a little naive. I'm surprised you guys can do so well with only a small amount of practice.
Kids in Hamanazawa romp around every day, so the amount of exercise they get surpasses that of the city kids. Besides, it's too much training is not always effective.
Wow, you think completely differently from the Okonomiya Titans. I can understand why their coach hates you.
It's not about being right. Matches exist for someone to win, after all, so prioritizing victory certainly isn't wrong. I think it's admirable to aim for victory together, but the goal of our team doesn't happen to be victory, that's all.
The Hamanazawa fighters and the Okonomiya Titans had been rivals for a long time. Both teams shared the same baseball field for one thing, and originally there was only one team, but the people living in Hamanazawa left and made their own. Anyhow, we were rivals. The Okonomiya Titans were strictly about winning, and the Hamanazawa Fighters were just about having fun. Surprisingly, our scores weren't that different, which meant our team had something they didn't. Even though I couldn't put it into words, I knew what made that happen. Hey, Team 1, no slacking! You can make up the 2-point difference pretty easily. Team 2, no slacking either. Still, some parents would criticize our coach for being too lenient, but still others would strongly agree with him. Which side would I take? The latter? I couldn't really say for sure. The reason for this was that Irie had an obnoxious habit of sexual harassment. In particular, he had a fascination with maids, but I should talk about that some other time. Satoshi-kun let the ball pass twice to see its trajectory, then hit it on the third pitch and ran to first base. Oh! He did it! He's so good when he's relaxed.
In the beginning, he used to get tired very easily. He's improved quite a lot since then.
He really does look kind of like a bookworm. I wonder why he started playing baseball in the first place. All the other kids who joined the baseball team loved baseball. They'd go out and play it in the fields outside of practice. That's why they'd all had an aptitude for it. But Sis never said that Satoshi-kun exercises intensively in school or anywhere else. He only likes to read. That's why I didn't understand why he started playing for this team to begin with.
That's because I invited him.
Is that so? You recruited him? Did you notice some sort of hidden talent?
Excuse me. Can I have a cup of barley tea? Ah, thank you.
Irie asked for tea in a suspicious manner. While he constantly joked around, I knew he was actually a very mature person. I assumed he was trying to evade my question. Is there a particular reason? Irie pretended he didn't hear me, but I pressed him on it. In response, he shrugged and began answering the question.
I think you might be able to guess.
What would be Mion Sonozaki's guess? I quickly searched through the data I had on Satoshi-kun. I came up with Satoshi-kun's family circumstances. He lost his parents in an accident a year ago. Since then, he's been having a tough time at his uncle's home. So, you invited him so that he could vent?
Sports are great. You can free yourself through exercise. I thought that as long as he's concentrated on something else, he could forget about his troubles at home.
You know he's usually sort of a daydreamer, zoning out all the time. Is he still stressed? I knew Satoshi-kun must be suffering even though he didn't look like it. But Mion Sonozaki never pays attention to things like that, and I had to act like she does.
Satoshi-kun got really sick after his uncle took him into custody. He had many clinical symptoms, but the causes were unknown.
Satoshi-kun often got sick after he was taken into his uncle's custody. He suffered from fatigue and migraines. He suffered from a lack of energy and sleeplessness. The coach, Dr. Irie, soon realized Satoshi-kun was suffering from a psychological disorder. Most of the people in Hamanazawa knew how bad Satoshi-kun's environment was. It was natural for him to become sick because he entered that bad environment right after his parents' deaths.
Hujo-san cannot express himself freely. Whether it's crying or simply being agitated, he's not good at handling those emotions.
That's true. I can't imagine him being very angry or crying.
Did you know Hujo-san's mother had been married a few times already?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. Satoshi-kun's mother had married a number of men over the years. That meant Satoshi-kun had several stepfathers. He had to deal with strangers coming into his home multiple times, so he was forced to be mature.
Satoshi-kun is mentally undeveloped. He isn't aware of it himself, though. He didn't have enough time to cry, laugh, and throw tantrums in his childhood. He was forced to become a grown-up in just a short amount of time.
That doesn't sound right.
Children have to behave like children in order to grow. There's nothing positive about being forced to become an adult.
Not only was Satoko's current relationship with her aunt conspicuously terrible, I heard that her relationship with her previous stepfathers weren't good either. Satoko always caused problems, and Satoshi-kun would always step in to protect her.
I thought his physical symptoms came from the stress his body was trying to warn him.
That's why Dr. Irie invited Satoshi-kun onto the baseball team. He told Satoshi that he needed a new member, or something like that.
He hesitated at first, but after I talked him into it at the clinic a few times, he began to open up to me. First, I invited him to come see the practice. Then, I suggested he should start batting. I eased him into it.
Sports worked excellently for Satoshi-kun. His health quickly improved, and he started to become interested in baseball. He practiced batting. He was soon able to swing beautifully, and he learned how to see the trajectory of the ball. I can imagine that. He likes to read, so he must have read a book titled How to Play Baseball or something like that.
He's become a good batter very quickly. He's put forth a lot of effort. Though I wish he could actually hit when it comes down to the wire, too.
Are you guys close?
I think so. He talks to me about his problems, so I guess that's a sign of trust.
I felt a bit jealous of how confidently Irie said that. While Satoshi-kun and I were friends, we weren't so close that we'd open up to each other like that.
Oh, are you jealous?
Huh? About what? Taken aback, I blushed. Irie started laughing at me.
Please, stay his good friend.
Well, yeah, I'm trying. I didn't know what I was saying.
You know, regarding Hujo-san, he seems a little sick again lately.
What? Thwack. The ball flew to the left, but the left fielder managed to catch it. It seemed that the relationship between Satoko and her aunt had gotten worse lately. It was obvious his sickness had something to do with that. Their aunt is bullying Satoko-chan in a terrible way. She's become worn out after that, and...
So, Satoshi-kun is also worn out from covering... Wait.
Okay, Darn it. The last sentence was from Coach. This sentence is from Shion. So, Satoshi-kun is also worn out from covering for Satoko, isn't he? I wasn't interested in Satoko, so I switched the subject back to Satoshi-kun. I didn't know much about Satoko. I knew that she was a big part of Satoshi-kun's life, but I'd never been interested in her until today. She must have been building up self-esteem and taking care of her unreliable brother. That was all I knew about her. But, considering Satoshi-kun's personality, even that goofiness of his might have been an act. Maybe he was trying to make her feel good about herself by letting her take care of him. If only unconsciously. When he's alone, he's surprisingly strong. I realized that only recently, so I couldn't help but think that his whole life is constantly affected by Satoko. Satoshi-kun managed to get along with his stepfathers even though he experienced some stress. He was even getting along with his aunt. But in order to protect Satoko, he always had to step in and suffer. I didn't really know anything about Satoko, but I had to admit I felt a little hostile towards her. I felt jealous because she was monopolizing him. It seems that their aunt has been tyrannizing Satoko-chan even more lately. That must be what's causing Satoshi-kun's sickness. Irie heaved a sigh. As he said, Satoshi-kun had been absent a few times lately. He seemed a bit tired, too. He looked normal when around everybody else, but he looked a bit depressed when he was alone. So, you invited him to join the team to relieve his stress, didn't you? Yes, that's right. But he looks stressed again now? How can we save him this time? I don't know. Irie smiled powerlessly. I couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed about that because Satoshi-kun put his trust in him. Just between you and me, Satoshi-kun recently told me that he wanted to leave the team. Huh? How come? He claimed he was tired of it. That's what he said. But I believe he actually wants to spend more time with Satoko-chan. He thinks that Satoko-chan might end up being tortured while he's at practice. I think he's concerned about that. I was left speechless for a while. Satoko again. Satoko. Why did Satoshi-kun have to sacrifice so much for her? Just by ignoring her, his stress would melt away. Of course, I knew he couldn't do that. If that were the case, then the blame would lay with his little sister. But I knew how badly she'd been treated. But that only happened because she made things worse for herself. It was her fault that she couldn't establish a decent relationship with their aunt. If Satoko were more mature like Satoshi-kun, her home life wouldn't have gotten so bad. Satoshi-kun wouldn't have to suffer those indirect blows. In the meantime, the baseball team's practice match had become one-sided. It wasn't even worth watching anymore. The members of the losing team were just goofing off. The sky had turned cloudy, too. It was depressing. It didn't look like it'd rain soon, though. The gray sky hadn't brought along any cool air. It just felt disgusting. Irie became quiet. He was looking down around his feet. I, meanwhile, just stared at Satoshi-kun. To me, he didn't look active anymore. He was once able to enjoy playing baseball, and he felt fine. But he got sick again just because the relationship between Satoko and her aunt had deteriorated. I couldn't help but say it. Shouldn't we do something about Satoko instead? It was just a murmur, but Irie had definitely caught it. What do you mean, Sonozaki-san? It's not that complicated. If Satoko were stronger, Satoshi-kun wouldn't have to deal with stress. I think Satoko is the cause of everything.
I don't know about that.
Yes, you do. If she didn't cause any trouble, he wouldn't have to step in, would he? He wouldn't have to take over the fight between Satoko and her aunt, right? Satoshi-kun never got scared of any trouble. No matter how formidable the enemy, he'd bravely stand up to protect the weak. I knew that because I could vividly imagine it. Whenever their aunt chides Satoko, Satoshi-kun steps in to protect her. The aunt probably didn't like that. Though Satoshi-kun didn't have to fight, the aunt would attack him anyway. The fight would be in between the aunt and him. Satoko might then tease the aunt by sticking out her tongue, hiding behind his back and pretending to be scared. She'd never think about how deeply he was being hurt. Because of Satoko, Satoshi-kun had become cornered and stressed.
I'm surprised to hear this from you, Sonozaki-san. I thought you were Satoko-chan's friend, her classmate, a big sister kind of figure. I thought you'd always be on her side. But what you said, this is surprising to me.
Irie looked at me suspiciously. I could tell what he was thinking about me. I'd said too much. Mion Sonozaki and Satoko Hujo are friends. They're close, so Mion should have been encouraging her. After the situation at home got tougher, that's what Mion was supposed to do. I had totally forgotten about that and spoken as myself. It's only natural that Irie would give me a suspicious look. He might end up changing his impression of Mion Sonozaki entirely. I'd have to apologize to her about this and ask her to put things right. I totally messed up. Even so, I didn't think I'd said anything wrong. I objectively looked at the situation and made a modest proposal. To be honest, I was simply afraid that he might leave the team. I couldn't go to the school in Hamanazawa, so the baseball field was the only place where I could see him. I could even say that he was my only reason for living. That's right, I was in love with him. But I wasn't going to tell him how I felt, for I was satisfied by just being by his side. I certainly couldn't ask for anything more. After all, I couldn't reveal my true identity. I had to pretend to be Mion in order to live in Okonomiya. I thought that maybe I should leave Okonomiya in order to be free, but that's stupid. No matter how tough my life might be, I'd prefer to be here, with Satoshi-kun stroking my head every now and then. Why did I love him that much? I read about it in some manga once. You don't need a reason to be in love. I was surprised at myself for being like this. Calm down, Shion. I breathed out slowly, then held my breath, trying to slow my throbbing heart. I felt a bit calmer. At that point, a clear thought came into my mind. I want to be with Satoshi-kun. So, I want him to stay on the team. So, I want to get rid of his concerns and his stress. So, what? So, what can I do? My head started to cool down as I heard the umpire shout, "Game, set, and match!" Some days I see him, some days I don't. A clear sky gets cloudy, and rain will all stop eventually. I thought his absence was just like that, but he was actually on the verge of a breakdown. The rainy season was just around the corner, and the air had become so humid that my shirt stuck to my skin. It had been a few weeks since Satoshi-kun stopped showing up for baseball practice. I looked for him as soon as I arrived at the field. He's not here yet. Did I get here too early? I want to see him playing in the field right when I get here. I had started arriving late because of those feelings. However, he wasn't here today either. I didn't even bother hiding my disappointment anymore. Everybody knew how I felt. The team members from Mion's class came over to try and console me, but I shooed them away.
What's going on, Sonozaki-san? Are you feeling sick?
Even Irie couldn't comfort me. I was aware that he, too, knew why I was like this. I'm going home. I don't feel like watching the practice today.
Look, we're having a meeting with the Okonomiya Titans later. I wanted you to be there because you're our manager.
Don't treat me like a manager. I never agreed to be one. Irie looked down, not knowing what to say.
Oh, right. Please help us again when you feel like it.
Maybe I won't be coming back. If you really need a manager, look for somebody else.
Please, do come again, whenever you feel like it. Satoshi-kun will be sad if you're not here when he comes back.
I ignored him and turned around. I had already set up my schedule with Mion, so I didn't have to ask her every time anymore. So I tried to contact her a couple of times and ask how Satoshi-kun was doing in school, but I hadn't been able to get through to her. Apparently, the hag had sensed that I might be in contact with Sis. In other words, Sis was being watched. As a result, it hasn't been easy to contact her. Kasai, who had been helping me contact her, seemed to have also been marked. People knew he was loyal to me. I hadn't seen him for a while either. All I could do was wonder how Satoshi-kun was doing. I was frustrated because there was no way for me to know. My head was filled with worries, but something surprised me out of the blue. Somebody called out to me when I was about to leave the field on my bike.
Mii-chan! Hello!
I'd never seen this girl before. Luckily, she called me Mii-chan. There's only one person who refers to Mion that way as far as I know. Rena! I'm surprised to see you here. Her name is Rena Ryugu. Her real name is Rena, but she wants to be called Rena. So that's what we call her. She moved here in April. I had some information on her, but it was all ambiguous. Sis was a bit uncertain about her since she's so new. It was hard for me to handle someone like that. I didn't know how to act around her as Mion. So I decided to pretend to be in an obviously sulky mood. That's why she wouldn't talk to me as much, assuming that Mion was simply feeling bad. Well, that's how I really am, anyway.
Are you going home, Mii-chan?
Yeah, I'm not feeling well. Sorry.
Let's go together, then!
I wanted to say that I'd rather be alone, but there's only one road to Hamanazawa. So asking to be alone would look odd. The only way not to seem suspicious would be to walk home with her. Yeah, let's go. Rena quietly nodded. I unlocked my bike.
Mii-chan, do you have an umbrella?
No.
It might rain soon. So let's hurry a bit, since you don't have one.
As she predicted, we were attacked by pouring rain on our way. We ended up taking shelter in a small shack in front of a bus stop.
It's pouring, but it doesn't look like it's going to last very long, since the sky over there is clear.
Yeah. I heard the sound of rain pattering on the rooftop and the raindrops jumping into puddles. It sounded loud, but it made me feel strangely calm. I zoned out for a moment when Rena talked to me while looking up at the rainy sky.
I was worried about you, 'cause you look so down.
All the baseball team members knew I was depressed because I hadn't seen Satoshi-kun recently. Most of them attend the school in Hamanazawa, so it wasn't surprising that she knew as well. I hadn't been able to contact Sis these past few weeks, but I was sure she had an idea of how I feel about Satoshi-kun and how I would feel if he didn't come to his baseball practice. Sis was probably pretending to act a little depressed during her day-to-day in Hamanazawa to avoid creating a big gap between our moods. But neither of us knew the details about the other right now, so she wouldn't be able to answer if others asked her what was wrong. She'd only be able to say, "Leave me alone." That might lead more people to become worried. Rena must have thought Mion was depressed. That must be why she came all the way to see me. She must have known. There's a missing word there. She must have known what was going on because she knew I was at the baseball field.
Do you feel lonely because Satoshi-kun is avoiding us?
Having deduced what had been going on with Satoshi-kun from what she just said, he'd been distancing himself from others lately because of exhaustion. That's what it sounded like, at least.
He looked like he was very worried about Satoko-chan. I think he's really on edge. I feel bad for him.
He really does care about his sister. He has a lot of courage. What I said sounded hollow, as I knew too well how much of a burden Satoko had become.
But I think he feels even worse if you also look that depressed, I think.
I don't want that.
I know, but if you really don't, then you need to smile for him. Otherwise, he might feel really cornered. I know you're strong. You can smile, even if it's just pretend. So, I want you to smile no matter what. You know what lies can become truth sometimes. You know that lies can become true sometimes.
What she was saying in a nutshell was this. Both Satoshi-kun and Satoko were totally wiped out. If Mion was also depressed, even though she's the sort of person who usually lightens the mood, their situation would be stuck in a vicious cycle. Rena sounded more like she was trying to give me advice than trying to console me. She must be more mature than she looks. Sis told me that she was a funny girl with a few bad habits, but she seemed to have another, very mature side to her.
Do you love Satoshi-kun?
Yeah. Though I shouldn't have told her that, I immediately responded.
In that case, why don't you smile?
Rena smiled herself.
I believe Satoshi-kun will feel better if he sees your smile. I know you feel powerless now, but your smile will give him strength.
I know what you're saying, but it's not that easy. Rena giggled and nodded.
He'll come back after he's done with his part-time job.
His part-time job? I almost asked that question, but I managed to stop myself. From the tone of Rena's voice, it sounded like it was something everyone knew. His part-time job, huh? I wonder when it'll end.
Until he has enough money, I guess. But he'll finish by Satoko-chan's birthday, at least.
I tried to figure out what was going on from what she said. I had to listen very carefully to uncover the whole picture. Satoshi-kun seemed to be working in order to make some money. I don't think it's easy to find a job when you're still in school. Sis might have had something to do with it. His job only seemed temporary, and it seemed to have something to do with Satogo's birthday. It wasn't that difficult to figure out. Satoshi was working and saving up to buy his little sister something expensive for her birthday. He was trying to comfort her, even though he was so torn up himself. Satogo again. Satoshi-kun was already worn out because of her, and he was now working for her sake, even though he was exhausted. How stupid. It would be easier for him to just forget about Satoko. I was startled when I realized Rena was looking straight into my eyes. She was smiling, but her eyes looked creepy. I'd never voiced what I was thinking, but she was looking at me as though she figured out that I was blaming Satoko. She beamed when she noticed my fear. She smiled as though she understood that I thought that way because of love. She was giving me the creeps. I could hear thunder roar in the distance. The rain began to pick up. Do you feel jealous of Satoko-chan because she monopolizes Satoshi-kun? I avoided answering immediately this time, but Rena seemed to know what I was thinking already. I wouldn't be upset even if you did. That's just how it is when you're in love. Thanks. You've been encouraging Satoko-chan despite that. That's admirable. Of course I have. She's my friend. I sounded so fake. I felt like spitting on the floor. All we can do is encourage Satoko-chan and Satoshi-kun. I don't know how to save them from their situation. Satoko is relying on Satoshi-kun way too much. If she were stronger, he wouldn't have to suffer in her place. Yeah, you said it really straightforward. Rena nodded with an unflinching smile, even though my remarks could be taken as harsh. What was this mysterious girl thinking? It was difficult to get a read on her. Maybe Satoshi-kun feels that way a little too. Huh? Rena kept smiling, but her smile looked strangely cold. I think he's tired of protecting Satoko-chan, and he's aware of that. Given the type of person Rena is, I don't think she'd say something if she wasn't certain about it. Because of that, she must have been confident in what she just told me. Why do you think that? He said so. What? Satoshi-kun secretly confessed to her. Rena asked me to keep it that way. Satoshi-kun told me he felt tired of protecting Satoko-chan. He was feeling guilty, though. I don't think he would say something like that. But, however, it wasn't likely that Rena was lying. I just met her, so I don't know what made her feel that way. But my hunch told me that she was telling the truth. I heaved a huge sigh. Satoshi-kun must have gotten so tired that he couldn't help telling someone. Even so, even if he thought that way, he wouldn't tell somebody so easily. Maybe Rena led him to do so. She might be capable of something like that. I don't understand. This girl. It had only been a little while since we'd met, but I already started thinking about something I was keeping deep inside of me. Does she have some kind of supernatural power to reach into people's minds and drag out what they're thinking? It suddenly hit me that I was sitting with this creepy girl in a tiny shack. I'd been dragged into her strange world. I don't think Sis has realized Rena's real personality. She thinks Rena is just a funny girl with some strange habits. She would have told me if she knew. I guess Satoshi-kun must trust you a lot if he confessed to you. I'm a little jealous. It's not because he trusts me. I think it's because I've experienced the same thing. You what? Did you also have to cover for your siblings once?
Those footsteps always followed me. They even came to my bedside and looked down at me.
Huh? Sorry, Rena, what are you talking about? I turned around to face her and got the chills. Though she was smiling, her eyes looked ice cold. I trembled and froze with my eyes open.
Have you experienced anything like that? I guess not. Probably.
Rena kept laughing self-derisively. I tried to figure out what she was saying.
Have you ever thought of leaving Hamanazawa and moving to a big city? Have you ever thought of doing something like that?
I didn't know how to respond. Rena waited for my answer, urging me to speak with her silence. No? I love it here.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? I knew that.
It didn't seem like a good idea to lie to her. Rena has some kind of power I can't grasp. She can read people's minds just by seeing the slightest change in their expressions. So I had to tell her the truth.
You'll be okay if that's true. Oshiro-sama won't get mad at you.
Oshiro-sama? Oshiro-sama. That's Hamanazawa's guardian deity. I couldn't understand why she mentioned that name. My mind stopped for a moment.
That's right, Oshiro-sama.
She calmly repeated the name as if trying to teach me something. Yeah, I remember. Oshiro-sama never allows heathens to Oshiro-sama never allows heathens to desecrate Hamanazawa. Oshiro-sama never allows the villagers to leave either. Those are the rules. Slowly, I recalled the fear of the curse which supposedly caused the dismemberment murder and the death of the Hujo couple. When I was sent to the institution, I had this fear. I was scared that if I went to that faraway boarding school, I'd fall under the curse. But I should be okay. I escaped from the school and returned to my hometown. To Okonomiya, to be precise. But it should be okay according to the kids' rules, because I love Hamanazawa. The hag forces me to live in this suffocating life, but I still choose to stay away in this place. I don't believe I'm breaking Oshiro-sama's rules. Even though the Sonozaki family had selfishly banished me to a remote place, I came back here anyway. Oshiro-sama should even bless me for that. I guess I'm trying to convince myself that the curse doesn't apply to me, but I think I'm still afraid of it. I love this place, so I don't think I qualify for Oshiro-sama's curse. You could even call me a model villager.
Yeah, I think so too, but I'm not sure about Satoshi-kun.
Why?
Satoshi-kun wants to leave Hamanazawa and run far away, even if only unconsciously.
Eh? I gave an inaudible cry. While I was feeling sad that Satoshi-kun hadn't shown up for practice, he still lived in Hamanazawa, so I never even considered the thought of him going away. Are you saying that he wants to skip town?
Yes! He's not aware of it himself, though. He probably didn't notice it until Oshiro-sama stood by his bed.
I still had no idea what she was talking about. I continued trying to figure out what she was saying.
Everything he's going through is a sign of Oshiro-sama's curse. You feel like someone is watching you from a distance, and it follows you. Then it watches right behind you.
After that, you start hearing an extra footstep. It only happens outside at first, but you start hearing it even inside your house after a while. Then, Oshiro-sama keeps watching you even when you're sleeping in the dark, right by your side, waiting silently for you to admit your sin. Satoshi-kun told me he was having nightmares at first, so I asked him what kind of dreams he was having. And those dreams he was having, as it turned out, were just like mine. I warned him that the presence would become bigger. He'd hear an extra footstep, and he'd feel the presence watching him in his sleep. I told him to come to me if that ever happened. He must have been suspicious at first, but just as I predicted, he started to feel Oshiro-sama's presence more strongly. He finally realized he could talk to me about it.
Rena didn't look like she was joking. She just calmly told me what had been going on. I couldn't even move. I couldn't tell if her words were a joke or the truth. I could only feel stunned.
I'm from Hamanazawa originally, but I moved to Ibaraki Prefecture right before I went to elementary school. However, when I couldn't adjust to my new environment, Oshiro-sama frequently started telling me to return to Hamanazawa in my head. But I couldn't do anything, since I was just a kid. I was forced to live there, though I felt threatened by Oshiro-sama's voice. Then...
Rena paused. It looked like she didn't want to go into the details of what followed. In general, she confused me even more.
Anyway, I was able to come back here in the end. Oshiro-sama forgave me. I haven't felt his presence anymore since then. Satoshi-kun is being subjugated to the curse, even though he's in Hamanazawa. Why? There can only be one reason. It's because he wishes to abandon Hamanazawa. Oshiro-sama won't allow that. After a series of inner monologues, he confessed. You know, he's working part-time, don't you? The teddy bear he's getting for Satoko-chan costs about 100,000 yen, and he's trying to get the money by her birthday. Have you noticed it yet? I think about it like this. If he's had that amount of money, that'd be enough for him to run away somewhere far from here. He unconsciously started to think about that, about leaving Satoko-chan behind. But he felt very guilty. As you pointed out, Satoko-chan is a burden on him. He's not stupid, so he's aware of that. He just doesn't want to admit it, because he's the one who's supposed to protect his little sister. He's been struggling with it himself. He thinks he's working to please Satoko-chan on her birthday, but he also feels that he might be deceiving himself, because he unconsciously wants to skip town with that money. I don't think he should run away. Even if he did, he'd regret it for the rest of his life. Oshiro-sama knows that. That's why Oshiro-sama is trying to warn him. I hope Satoshi-kun stops thinking of abandoning Satoko-chan. He's working hard to make it to Satoko-chan's birthday, which is a couple of days after the Watanagashi festival. He's pushing himself too hard. He believes it'll come to an end when Satoko-chan's birthday comes. The curse keeps cautioning him, while he tries to figure out whether he should leave or continue protecting her.
The torrential rain didn't seem to want to stop. It kept pouring down on the galvanized iron roof, producing a loud noise. Yet, in the shack, it fell completely silent. What the hell was Rena talking about? I couldn't grasp even half of what she was saying,
The only thing I had figured out was that Satoshi-kun was struggling, confused, and in lots of pain. He's suffering from Oshiro-sama's curse. And Rena has experienced that before? The Watanagashi festival was right around the corner. Oshiro-sama's curse had been struck 3 years in a row. There was no guarantee that it wouldn't strike a 4th time. Satoshi-kun was the subject to Oshiro-sama's curse even now? Was he going to skip town? Was he going to be the next victim of Oshiro-sama's curse? Either way, he might disappear forever. Could I do something to prevent it? If I didn't do anything, it would all come to a hopeless end. I started feeling a sense of dread. I didn't buy the crazy story Rena had told me, but if something really was happening to Satoshi-kun, which might bring about some kind of end, then I couldn't help feeling scared. It's true, isn't it? My instinct is always correct. I decided to contact Mion despite the danger. Mion got upset at first, but she had to listen to me. Sis, what's going on with Satoshi-kun? He looked really stressed out. I can't even talk to him. What do you mean? You don't know what's going on because you can't talk to him? Sorry. Sis, give me another chance to trade spots again. That's fine, but I'm kind of busy lately attending meetings for the festival. What are you planning to do? Another part-time job? I'm going to your school.
Notebook page 21 and 24. Few new tips.
Why don't I reiterate my encounter with that creepy girl in the rain? Her name is Rena Ryugu. Her real first name is Rina. I have no idea what kind of girl she really is. One thing is certain, she has no relation to the Sonozaki family. She has no relation to the 3 families as a whole, either. The Ryugu family used to live in Hamanazawa, but then they moved to Ibaki, whatever. It was before she went to elementary school. They returned to Hamanazawa some years later. Rena Ryugu said that she came back because Oshiro-sama told her to. I don't know what that means. She said it was the curse of Oshiro-sama, that Oshiro-sama had stalked her. I think it was probably a hallucination, but Satoshi-kun had been interested in the experience. She said that Satoshi-kun was also experiencing Oshiro-sama's curse. Satoshi-kun told her that he was being followed by some unknown existence. He was surprised to learn that Rena had the same experience before. What is Oshiro-sama's curse? Why did Rena and Satoshi-kun have a similar experience? I believe that means somebody put them under surveillance. Somebody must be spying on the next victim of the curse. Since Rena and Satoshi-kun both blindly believe in Oshiro-sama's curse, they interpret it as Oshiro-sama's presence. If paranoia kicked in, they'd feel as if they were experiencing paranormal phenomena. Judging from what Rena said, it seems that Satoshi-kun had been put on surveillance since long before Watanagashi. So, one question comes to mind. Why were they watching Rena? I'm assuming that this surveillance was placed on a victim-to-be of that year. If so, I don't understand why Rena went through it. Why did they watch her, even though she was living so far away? If she was considered somebody who abandoned the village, I could understand. But she didn't fall victim in the end. Maybe she was forgiven because she came back to Hamanazawa. I guess she still knows something I don't. Satoshi-kun looked terrible. When he went home, he had to mediate a fight between Satoko and their aunt. He became mentally exhausted. He went to work every day. He became physically exhausted. He no longer communicated with his classmates. He's either slept on his desk or was gone somewhere during lunch break. He used to be really gentle. It was painful to see him suffering like that. On top of all that, he was dealing with the curse of Oshiro-sama. He must have been completely and totally and absolutely exhausted. That curse was a form of surveillance by those planning to victimize Satoshi-kun that year. That means that the other victim was in the same situation. Satoshi-kun's aunt had also been watched. Did she notice any presence? What about the others? Did the victims of the previous incidents also experience it? I need to investigate the facts in order to prove the curse on Satoshi-kun was actually just surveillance. It is surveillance, paranoia, or really the curse.
Well, first off, the immediate thing is interesting is that notebook page 21 is most likely from today, like right after she got back from dealing with Rena, whereas 24 seems like it might be closer to or after she goes to the school in the next chapter, or even Watanagashi. So first off, that's very interesting. I need to better prepare for these because my voice was going there. It kind of worked for the Rena voice, but my voice was going on the Rena voice. Sorry for that, if that kind of screwed it up. But I felt it added a little bit of creepiness to the Rena voice if it wasn't perfect. First off, let's start from the beginning. Why only now do I start bumping the crap out of my mic? Anyway, starting from the beginning, the baseball stuff was interesting, illustrating that, yes, something's up with Satoshi-kun. Kind of made moot by the second half, because Rena basically explains why he's actually feeling troubles in that half. But the stuff with, like, why Coach invited him to join the team to help the stress and, generally try to be helpful, it was all nice. You definitely got a sense of, like, how much Shion is, like, in love with him and basically is completely attached to this one person sort of deal. Not really much there other than maybe Coach being suspicious of Shion not being Mion, but it seems like everyone's pretty much fooled. I was curious as to if Rena would immediately see through it when she showed up, because that's kind of Rena's thing. Like, Rena can just see straight through the bullshit of a person. She's done it multiple times, of just seeing straight through Kiichi's bullshit and just going straight to the heart of the problem and knowing when you're lying to her. And since this entire thing is Shion putting up an act, I get the feeling that Rena probably knows this isn't Mion. Like, I think she figured it out pretty quickly, but just kept going with it. Now, this is a return of creepy Rena, which hasn't showed up in a major way in a while. Like, it's been a couple chapters since Rena's been, like, full-on creepy mode. And full-on potentially a problem. But what this chapter has given is a lot of Rena backstory. A lot of very interesting Rena backstory. And probably solidifying and saying that, yes, the thing that happened in Onikakushi, where it detailed a bit of Rena's past, I believe, where she assaulted some people in her school and then they came back, I think that might have cemented as being probably true, even though it wasn't fully detailed here. It was hinted at that's like, okay, yeah, something happened in the past with Rena, and it was kind of ridiculous. The stuff she says about the curse is interesting, because if you want to take her at face value, she completely believes in the curse and she believes in everything that she's saying. Even though I think it was the second chapter, where she was on Kiichi's side against Mion, she seemed kind of anti-curse in that one. Though this one, she seems to fully, completely believe it, and it doesn't seem like she's putting on an act, because, you know, creepy Rena is kind of like true Rena. It's Shin Rena. No, it's like her straight up mode. The thing I find interesting about it is how she says that she beat it. Like, she got over it. Like, she heard the footsteps, and she details all these things that, if we remember from chapter 3, Kiichi was going through. He was hearing the footsteps. He was hearing the whispering. He was feeling the people watching him. I don't know if it got to a point where he was like asleep and feeling someone watching him. I don't know if that was ever mentioned, but it was definitely the footsteps and potentially like hearing things, which, according to Rena right now, is signifiers of the curse. And then Shion brings up the good point of, if she has been through this before, but it's supposed to be some town conspiracy, why would the curse go after her when she's so far away and seemingly not related to any of the big three families or any of, like, potential conspiracy? Because it seems like the Ryugus are completely unattached to the dam project, but Rena is straight up saying, yeah, this thing happened to me, this is what it was like, but then I came back to Hamanazawa after a thing, and I admitted that I should never have left, and it seems like Oshiro-sama was cool with that, and it left. So, she's been through it before, and she beat it, which I think is very interesting, because so far, we've just seen curse failures. It's like, first year of the curse dead. Like, all we hear are all of these people dying from the curse. Kiichi in, like, almost every... in all 3 chapters, basically dies from the curse. So, Rena, at this point, is the first time in this series you're hearing about someone who is saying that they had the curse on them and got over it. So she knows what the curse is, she knows how the curse acts, but she also knows how to beat the curse by, according to her, admitting your sin. So, admitting the reason. So, what she's insinuating here is that if Satoshi-kun wants to beat the curse, he has to admit that he thought about leaving Hamanazawa and then say, no, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to stay. For Kiichi, I think the entire problem with Kiichi was he needed to have admitted that he was an outsider, which wouldn't make much sense since the curse hates outsiders anyway. Maybe. That's what I think. I think, because, like, the curse is, like, very outsider hating. They like people to stay, but they hate outsiders. And they hate anybody who leaves. So Kiichi might have been fucked either way. But even then, why wasn't Kiichi's parents experiencing that? And, like, legitimately, the curse, it doesn't seem feasible for it to affect literally every visitor to Hamanazawa. Though you get Tomatake-san, who in all of the past things is a repeated visitor to Hamanazawa, but for some reason is only being hit by this curse on this 5th year, because he dies in every Kiichi chapter. Because, like, I think in Kiichi's time, the year after this, that's like his time, even though Tamataki's like a repeated visitor. So it's kind of weird. And that's if we want to believe that the curse is 100% supernatural. Now, if we want to believe it's surveillance and man, then yeah, the Rena thing doesn't make much sense unless the Ryugus are somehow more deeply connected to the stuff. And it could be that someone was influencing her to assault her students or whatever, which would negatively impact the family and kind of force them to move back to Hamanazawa. I could see that, but then I'd have to think of like, why are the Ryugus important at all? Because they haven't been brought up as important yet in any capacity. It's all been about the Sonozakis and wow. Rika's family name, Furude's, and then I forget who the third one is. Sonozaki, Furude, something. Whatever. It's the other family's not that important, even though I'm probably just easily forgetting a thing that's been repeated a bunch of times. And I think part of why Rena goes into this big Oshiro-sama explanation is probably because she immediately saw through Shion and knows it's Shion or something because she is friends with Mion, and in chapters that take place after this, she is fully aware of Shion. But that might be because this might be the chapter where she figures it out, like she actually meets Shion for the first time and they start getting along. I could see in this chapter as well that Shion starts to get affected by the curse, but she also beats it. Maybe. She will either start to be affected by the curse and beats it, or she'll never get affected by the curse because it's not her time, I guess. Again, Shion was seemingly affected by the curse in year 5 with Kiichi, only in one chapter, it seems. In chapter 2, where Mion potentially killed her or something. Yeah. Or no, she killed herself because Mion died. Man, chapter 2 was weird. Chapter 2 was really weird. And really confusing. Chapter 2 is really a confusing, crazy chapter. Either way, very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. I love that Rena showed up, and I love that Rena showed up and was creepy. Next chapter, we're potentially going to see everyone else, and I feel like Shion's going to be outed. Because she's literally going into Amanazawa surrounded by a bunch of people who know Mion and still trying to pretend to be Mion. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I feel like it's going to work out poorly, and I feel like she's going to be called out on not being Mion at some point. Potentially in the next chapter. I feel like it's got to be soon. She can't keep up this act forever. So yeah. Until next time, see ya.